Hey guys, we got a global preview for version 2.8, and if you watched one of my previous videos, I was like, why are they even doing this? Do they think we are like fucking stupid and uninformed? Not able to use the internet to find information? And oh boy, we got some big news. Let me tell you, we found out why they actually did this, and they delivered this global preview program for version 2.8 was amazing. And we're gonna talk about all the important things here in this video. First, let me share the 3 new gift codes that you can use. You can have them, you see them here on your screen. I will put them in the comment section down below and pin them. So definitely use them, they are pretty good. Before we jump into the news for version 2.8, let me tell you something about version 3.1 real quick. And this is the Euphoria banner that we will get. Again, if you watched my previous video, then I was speculating that the 2 new characters highly look like they will belong to Bloodtide and Dynamo once again. And this Euphoria banner actually underlines what I'm thinking, because Eternity belongs to Bloodtide, Medicine Pocket belongs to Bloodtide, Ezra is the sustain for the Dynamo archetype, you know, so my guess is that they put these characters again into this Euphoria banner, so that you can make good use of the new characters, even if you missed out on something that belongs to the Bloodtide or Dynamo team. And there we go. Now let's jump into the biggest news about version 2.8, and let's talk about the biggest game changer here first, which are those 5 plushies that we got now. I'm kidding, of course. It is this portrait selector right here that got a huge update, because previously we thought this is gonna go up until version 2.5, but now we know it's all the way up to version 2.6, if not even version 2.7, to be honest. And why this doesn't really change things, or it might change things for a few players at least, are the additions of Recoleta and Aleph. So let's talk about them a little bit. Let's talk about Aleph first. His portrait number 1 is massive, because it gives you AP +1 for 2 rounds instead of 1. That is always really good. This is why the portrait number 1 for Flutter Page, for example, is such a giga value. Aleph has the same, and of course, needless to say, that is very good. Even if you have portrait number 1 for Aleph already though, his portrait number 2 is even better than his portrait number 1, because now you are able to remember 3 incantations with his ultimate instead of just 2. That is like unbelievably good, right? Even like if you have both, if you have portrait number 1, you gain AP +1 for 2 rounds. If you have his portrait 2, on top of that, you remember 3 instead of 2 incantations with his ultimate now. That is what Aleph is all about. Those are the 2 best things of his kit, and that makes him the best in slot for the impromptu team. It improves this character by a whole bunch. And then even his 3rd portrait is also very nuts, because this increases the damage of impromptu incantations at the end of the round. And if you combine this portrait number 3 that deals more damage at the end of the turn, together with his portrait number 2, which lets you remember 1 incantation more with his ultimate, it is really absurd and elevates a character that is already a best in slot for the 3rd best team in the entire game to a whole new level, and these portraits are out of control when it comes to value. Then let's talk about Recoleta's portraits as well, because they are also incredible. If you look at portrait number 1 here, you now get 2 instead of 1 preparation Recoleta. That means you are now able to cast 2 ultimates instead of just 1 in the very first turn, right? And then yeah, from time to time you cast 2 instead of just 1 ultimate. That is not only incredible because you can cast Recoleta's ultimate with it twice, no, it is incredible because you can have this combination between casting Melania's ultimate to apply stacks of fixed plan and increase Recoleta's Moxie together with these stacks of fixed plan and more Moxie, use Recoleta's ultimate, and all of this in the same turn for 0 AP. Whew, like what an incredible value for just the portrait 1. And then same as with Aleph. Here portrait number 2 is also really insane because you increase the damage that you deal with Recoleta's ultimate by a significant amount. Guess what? Recoleta is all about using her ultimate and hitting hard with it. Now you hit even harder with it than before. That is incredible. And then moving forward to portrait number 3, just as it is with Aleph, you increase the damage that you deal with your ultimate even further, right? This is the flat damage that the ultimate deals. That is increased by 200% in total. So that is a whole lot for her ultimate, right? The portrait number 2 does also increase the damage you deal with your ultimate, but that goes through the stacks of monomythic and assemble narrative that you have. Then unfortunately portrait number 4 wouldn't be the giga value, but Recoleta's portrait 5 is one of, if not the best portrait 5 in the entire game. So there you go. Now, while all of this, right, all the portraits for Aleph and Recoleta, they are of course really good, and this will come in handy for a lot of players. But still, if it really comes down to what portraits here, what portrait should you pick? What portrait has the most amount of value, and how would this portrait selector here be used at the maximum amount of efficiency? That Oscar still goes to Flutter Page, simply because of the fact portrait number 1 gives you AP plus 1 for 2 instead of 1 round, right? That is the same as Aleph. So how come Flutter Page's portrait has more value? That is because Flutter Page is a more flexible character. Aleph can only and ever only be played in the impromptu lineup, while Flutter Page is extremely versatile. As I always say and explained, I can't even count anymore how often I always say that, is that Flutter Page and Fatutu can be played together with every single character in the game, and they together will make any single character in this game perform well, right? And that is an advantage that only Flutter Page and Fatutu have and no one else. That is why Flutter Page still wins out. But you know, maybe impromptu is your best team and you have Aleph, you have the best possible impromptu setup, and this is the team that you play the most. Then you wouldn't go wrong, of course, picking Aleph portraits. It depends a little bit on the individual, right? What do you play the most? What portraits do you already have? How often do you use a certain character, right? And maybe you don't even have Flutter Page, right? Let's say that, for example. Then of course the Aleph portraits here are your second best choice now. Flutter Page first. If you don't have Flutter Page P1, get that. Second best option would then be Aleph, and third best option would now not be Baccarola anymore, but that goes to Recoleta right now, especially if you could get to portrait 3 or even 5 with Recoleta. Let's say, right, you have for some reason which is very, very unlikely. But let's just say, let's pretend you have 4 portraits on Recoleta. If that would somehow be the case, then the Recoleta portrait number 5 would obviously be your highest priority. Then you can even ignore the Flutter page P1, right? Just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. Believe it or not, but this portrait selector here becomes even better because of multiple reasons. The first one is this Promise of the Water banner. It improved drastically and is a little bit more of a game changer. So let me explain this a little bit. We thought also this is only going up all the way to version 2.5. That's not true. This goes up all the way to version 2.7 as well. Everything prior to version 2.8 is pullable here from this banner, Promise of the Water. You can select a 6-star character of your choice and pull for it. It's like you can create your own banner basically. And why is this a game changer? Because previously this banner would only really have value if you don't have Fatuto. Kind of Flutter page as well, but it was mainly about Fatuto. Now things change a little bit because you can get your hands onto a missing piece, like for example Kibarina or Aleph, in case you would miss one of those for the perfect impromptu team. That team is the best, third best team in the game, right? So it is super valuable to get the best roster together there. This banner now allows you this. Also, if you don't have the best possible character for the ultimate archetype, like for example, if you don't have Noir, if you don't have Recoleta, and you don't want to rely on a 5-star character like Buddy Fairchild, then now you have the option to get that Recoleta, the best in slot for the ultimate archetype team. That is also massive. And don't forget about Fatuto, of course, but you can combine this banner right here. You can pull for a character, then obtain the character and get a free copy of him from this portrait selector right there. So if you pull for Aleph, you can have him at P1, which is a drastic increase. If you don't have Flutter page, you can get her at P1. Massive, right? Recoleta, if you don't have Recoleta, you can get Recoleta at P1. Those are massive power spikes and massive buffs for these characters. And that's why the combination of this portrait selector and this banner is actually absolutely incredible. And yeah, that's it guys. Those were the huge improvements that we got from the previous show. I'm just kidding. We have this one right here. This is something that you can buy in the shop, the Souvenir of Companionship. This will cost you 30 bucks. You will get 10 Unilocks. And one more time, prior to this preview show for Global, we thought, because that was how it was in China, by the way, we thought we could only pick a character up to version 2.5, but no, we can pick up to 2.7. Why is that a game changer? That is for the same reasons that I previously mentioned when we talked about the other two things, right? You can combine this. You're probably, because you're an idiot, you will probably go broke into this version 2.8 because you invested way too much into Ezio, and maybe you even bricked your account because you pulled for Cassandra, right? That is very likely. There are a whole bunch of morons out there that actually did that, and you're probably one of them. Sorry, but I have to say it like that. That means you will most likely not have enough resources to pull for Nautica, for Lucy, on the Euphoria banner and all that jazz. So you won't have the resources to pull on this Promise of the Water banner. Now you can bust out your wallet and reduce the pain, reduce your mistake, your stupidity that you did in the AC collab by buying this Souvenir of Companionship, and again get a character that you don't have and combine it with the portrait selector. You can buy yourself Aleph, you can buy yourself Fatutu, you can buy Flutter page, you can buy Regulator, and not only that, you can obtain them with a huge power spike by having them at P1, right? So those three things, now going up to version 2.7 instead of just version 2.5, are incredible game changers to pretty much everyone. Even I will probably buy this 30 buck collector here to get Kiparina, right? Previously, I wouldn't need to buy this. I have Flutter page, I have Regulator. Nothing of that would have any value to me. I don't need Aleph, I don't play impromptu, right? But Kiparina can be slotted into the Dynamo team as an overall good sustain, and I need a sustain as I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to get this fucking 2 fairy Euphoria at some point, but it is just not coming. So I need a replacement for this 2 fairy because she's power cramped, she doesn't hold up anymore, and Kiparina would give me that sustain, right? Like, not the best option, but I don't mind to spend a little bit of money onto this game, especially at an anniversary for something so valuable. So now that I don't have to waste my bunnies onto Kiparina and could save them up for the second anniversary, I still now have the option to go for her and then wait for this 2 fairy Euphoria, which I was like predicting over and over and over again, but it keeps not happening. So you see, that is an option. That is an example of how I will probably deal with this and go about things. So yeah, now that is truly all there was to this preview of the second anniversary for Global. I hope that was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate that. If you have anything that you would want me to talk about, to go over, maybe you have a specific scenario when it comes to what portraits you have, or do you want me to talk a little bit more about anything, right? Please let me know about that in the comment section down below. I would really appreciate it, and I will make a video about whatever you tell me to. So now let's cut it off. Have a great day, take care of yourselves, don't forget to join the Discord server, link in the description of this video, and we love this game.